Moms for Liberty really worked miracles.
We have a crisis in America in public education. This is the future of our kids and our country.
You are joyful warriors.
And we are just getting started.
Where should I be looking?
Welcome to the Fire of Liberty show. I'm Tina Deskovich, the CEO and co-founder of Moms for Liberty. This show is a time each week that we bring you the frontline warriors in this culture war, moms and dads that are basically forced activists that have uncovered things happening in their school districts or with their children, and they just couldn't sit on the sidelines anymore. And so we celebrate them here. We bring them in the studio and we have them share their stories because they are inspiring, and we hope that they will empower you and activate you to take action in your communities. There's a few things going on in the country right now that I want to talk about before I introduce our first guest. And one of them was in Wisconsin yesterday. We had elections, believe it or not. I know most of the country had no idea that was happening. And it turns out in Wisconsin, most of the people didn't know it was happening either because voter turnout was exceptionally low. However, Moms for Liberty focuses on school board races. And so it looks like pending final counts and such, that we won about 15 more school board seats. We're excited about that. But there was one big win that I want to share with you today that we are very excited about. Christy, her name is Christy, and she was running a New Richmond school district in St. Croix County. And if you've been following Moms for Liberty social media for the past 2 months, there was an explosion there of issues. So Scarlett Johnson on our team, who runs a lot of our social and has the Unleashed podcast, uncovered that they were allowing boys in girls' restrooms. And she had spoken to some of the young ladies and really helped bring the story to light. And it just went viral. It went national. And so there was a huge school board meeting where Ella, if you've probably seen her on our social media, has come forward to share her concerns about having to share restrooms and private spaces with boys in her school district. She spoke at a school board meeting, and the school board chair actually said something really dumb like, our school district should be a destination school district, not a discrimination school district. When he actually was discriminating against was these young girls who just wanted to be safe and just wanted their private spaces. Anyways, the great breaking news for us this morning is that that school board chair, is no longer in that position. He had served since 2018, and he even had a term before that of several years. So he's been on that school board for a very long time, but he is no longer on that school board. Our endorsed candidate will now replace him. And so now girls can be safe in New Richmond School District, Wisconsin. So we're very excited about that. The next thing I just want to transition into, which will also lead to the introduction of our guest today, is if you're watching the College Board and AP, guess what they've done? Oh, yes, you got it. DEI in practice again. They are taking their scores and making them more equal, more equitable. A lot of complaints from op-eds and such from the New York Times, putting pressure on the College Board to help the students, lower income students who weren't doing well on those tests, to help minority students who weren't doing as well. And so they decided to just, everybody gets a trophy. So we're dumbing it down America, and that leads right into our guest today, because her obsession and passion is the dumbing down of America, what she is finding in textbooks and storybooks and in schools in general. And so she is here all the way from King County, Washington. She's our chapter chair out there, which actually we think is having nicer weather than we are in Florida right now.
It is just sunny and warm.
Yeah, it's not here. Right here, it's
No.
like rainy. We had 40-mile-an-hour winds last night. We looked out the window, the palm trees. I was like, is there a hurricane going on out there? Anyways, everybody, I would like to welcome to the Fire Liberty show this morning, Ann Streit, our chapter chair for King County, Washington. Welcome.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I'm delighted to be here. Brought the weather with me.
Yeah, thanks for that. I know last night I was telling you, I looked at my husband and I'm like,
Yeah.
Ann brought this weather because this is not Florida weather, but we're glad you're here.
But yeah, it's a wonderful place regardless of the weather. I'm so glad to be here and to meet everybody.
We're so glad. So you're a mom of
yes.
2, did I get that right? And a
Yes.
grandma of 4.
Uh-huh.
And you were a speech language pathologist in public schools for 30 years. Is
Over
that correct?
30 years. Yeah.
So you know what goes on in schools.
Well, I got a chance to, I didn't actually teach a curriculum as an SLP, but I got a chance to view a lot of curriculums and started getting more and more concerned about what I saw.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about that today.
Yes.
You've got some. Did you bring all your stuff in here?
I brought a few things. Yeah.
Okay, you brought the little cards that you were showing me before. Yeah, wait till you guys see some of this today. You're not going to actually see it, but she'll read some of it off to you. It's some of the things that she has, I don't want to say uncovered, but discovered
Yeah.
while exploring what's been happening in education. I feel like
Yeah.
we all kind of know
Uh-huh.
sometimes, like, stuff doesn't feel right. It just, we can't put our finger on it. It's not a glaring, there are glaring problems, but sometimes
Yeah.
they're not so glaring, but you don't really understand what's happening. But I feel like you are really making that connection in the work you've been doing.
Well, yeah, I started seeing it happen, and of course, it's on steroids now. But I didn't understand why I was seeing the things that I was seeing, and I thought it was burned out, and I think I was just being called out of the system so that I could focus on what kids really need and exposing what's going on.
So you resigned after 30 years.
I resigned.
Were
Yeah.
you in Washington State when you resigned?
When I resigned, yes,
Yeah.
I've worked.
I wonder
other
if things were
states.
worse there too. Like, I don't know how long you were there, but I imagine things were worse earlier in Washington State. And
Yeah.
so let's talk a little bit about some of the things that you have seen and you've uncovered in either textbooks or reading books or, anything that you have brought with you.
Well, yeah, I'd be glad to share that. So, um, I'm a reviewer for textbooks and trained volunteer reviewer for Truth in Textbooks. And so I've gotten a chance to see textbooks, history books, ahead of being published. So I got a chance to see that. And I've always been an avid reader. I was the kid with, the math books open, but I've got my book inside and reading it. So
I knew kids like that in
Yeah,
school. You
yeah,
look
it
over
is.
and they always had like even the kid, I remember Heather, her name was Heather
Yeah.
in my middle school. She never was paying attention. She always had her own little book inside of there.
That was me. And I've always loved literature and stories. And I've been watching what's been happening, see what my grandkids are reading, and just really researching it. I was on a committee in one of the local school districts where it's curriculum adoption committee, where they review what the kids are going to read for the next 10, 12 years. That was a very surreal experience.
Let's back up a little. So
Okay.
you say you're a trained curriculum reviewer. With whom?
Yes.
Who did you say?
Truth in Textbooks.
And who is that?
It's out of Texas by Lieutenant Colonel Roy White.
Okay.
It's a volunteer organization, and we get those textbooks before they were published. We were trained for quite a bit of time before we actually did it. So before they were published, we'd identify the errors, whether it's factual errors or omissions. We would write up these reports, and then they would take them to school boards or to State Board of Education and say, this is why you can't adopt these books.
We need more of that going on. So it's Truth in Education?
Yeah.
Is that
Truth in Textbooks?
Truth in Textbooks. Oh, Truth in Education is out of Georgia. I'm getting my organizations. Yeah. So Truth in Textbooks, are they still active and functioning? And
I don't think so. COVID kind of shut them down. They shut down for a couple of years. They did one review following that. I couldn't do it because I was involved in Moms for Liberty, and I haven't been able to reach anybody there since then. Yeah. It's hard with volunteer organizations.
Oh, yes. Don't I know about that? But I really wish somebody would pick that mantle back up. I think this is an important aspect. And we have chapters that do review textbooks, but to have a specific plan and a training, I think that would be important. How did they get a hold of the textbooks before they were published?
Well, that's a good question. And that was beyond my scope. They just kind of said, this is the textbook. I mean, we would very often get a digital copy, not the printed copy, although more and more are becoming digital anyway. But they would just say, they would assign us, and we would be paired up with people, sometimes across the country. And what I've done is I've actually taken what I learned there and then applied it to things on my own. So I've got things that I hand out to parents. This is how you review literature books. This is how you review history books. It's not easy because you do have to know some history. But I think a lot of times parents know as much, if not more, than some of the teachers, because teachers are not often curriculum specialists. They're often pedagogy specialists, which is
I knew you were going to drop that word in there.
Yeah, the techniques of teaching.
Yeah. So since you dropped it in there, we're going to take a little pause, and you're going to explain to the whole audience what pedagogy is, because I was on the school board probably a year before I heard the word pedagogy, and I was like, what does that even mean? And so an average ordinary person who isn't an educator has no idea what that word means. So tell us what pedagogy is.
Well, education can be looked at in two ways. It's the curriculum, which is what the kids are reading, what they're studying. And I think people are really comfortable understanding what that is. Pedagogy is how do they teach it? And there's, without going into, James Lindsay does an incredible job of exposing what pedagogy is, but it takes the curriculum and they can turn it into anything they want based on the questions they ask and how they present it. So it's curriculum is what they teach. Pedagogy is how they teach it.
And so I'm going to add to that, when you're doing a curriculum review, which some people do and parents do and go down to their school board and review curriculum, it is vital. You also review the teacher's manual, because that's where we have found, like with Wit and Wisdom, the chapter there found in the English language arts curriculum, all the problems were in the teacher's manual, because they had a Norman Rockwell painting. And instead of pointing out, I think it was a Ruby Bridges painting or something like that, instead of pointing out the beauty of her courage and what was happening, they were pointing to second graders the N-word painted on the wall. And you wouldn't have known that unless you read the teacher's manual that was telling them, make sure you point this out, ask them how that makes them feel, ask them what they would think, like, it's so frustrating.
You can take something very innocent and turn it into a DEI lesson. And parents would never know, because they look at the problem or the story just on the textbook without knowing what the teachers are doing. I've just seen some horror stories of ways that they're presenting this information to kids that parents would never know. And it comes from the pedagogy.
That is remarkable. And so I think, I don't know, since you're here talking to me about this, that maybe we want to explore you helping other chapter leaders if they're interested in learning how to review curriculum and textbooks, because I think it's an important thing. And if the Texas organization is not doing it any longer, somebody's got to pick up that mantle. And I mean, I just told you we're doing so much stuff. Why not one more thing?
Sure. Well, I think it's vital. It's our literature, our history. That's who we are. And we're engaged in civilizational destruction education right now. And we've got to turn this around.
So what drives you on this? Like, why did you start, you said you love literature and you were sensing something was wrong, but to really sit and work with others across the country to review books and curriculum, why?
I shouldn't admit it here. I suppose I'm a geek, I'm the one that takes notes on everything. I love it. That's my passion. I don't cook. I don't clean. I don't garden. I don't do art. I don't play instruments anymore. I'm not sure what I would do if I wasn't in my books. And it's a passion. It's an obsession with me.
With books, but you could just be an avid reader. What drives you to want to make sure that the books, like what are you finding, or what's concerning to you that's making you evaluate textbooks and compare historical books and modern books? What's pushing for that?
Well, it all comes down to the kids and of course our civilization. I mean, we're fighting for the survival of America. Literature represents what a culture values, what it needs to survive. You look back at Gilgamesh and Beowulf and all those, and it's tales of courage and skills and cleverness and perseverance. Kids aren't getting that right now. Kids are getting look inward. It's what you want to see yourself in it. Instead of looking outward, going into space, exploring, kids are to look inward and ruminate on their feelings. And it's causing a lot of mental health problems. So, if we don't understand our history, we can't stand up for it. We can't fight for it. If we don't understand that there's a bigger world out there that we can experience and that we can overcome things, then we're going to ruminate and look inward. So it's pretty frightening, I think, what they're doing to children.
I think it is too. And so we are going to take a little 1-minute break here. Okay. And as soon as we come back, I want you to show us some examples of the things that you found that are so concerning to you, that keep driving you to continue to look for more and uncover and expose and do the work. And so with me right now, we have Ann Streit. She is the chapter chair of King County, Washington. She is obsessed with what she's finding in books and in literature right now. After the break, we're going to talk a little bit about what she's finding. So we hope you'll stay with us. And right now, we're going to play you a little message about our America 250 collection. This is Missy from our Moms for our M4L Academy.
2026 is kind of a big deal at Moms for Liberty. This marks our 5th anniversary of unifying parents to hold government accountable. Yeah, we survived despite the odds, the many adversaries, and all the predictions we couldn't make it. But even more exciting, this year we are thrilled to be official partners with Freedom 250, celebrating America's 250th birthday. With so much to celebrate, we've released some special limited edition commemorative merch that you do not want to miss. So if you love liberty and believe that parents, not the government, should be raising their kids, head over to momsforliberty.org/store to grab yours. And while you're there, check out all the other cool gear. We have something for everyone, from tiny tots, fur babies, all the way up to grandma, everything in between, and for your house. Every purchase supports the mission and helps spread the word. Again, that's momsforliberty.org/store. What are you waiting for? Go now before it sells out.
Isn't Missy so great? We were just talking about, like, she's been doing a lot of these reels for us lately, and her energy is good. And I love, go now, go before it sells out.
Yeah.
Hurry, get your Freedom 250 shirt. And so we're excited to celebrate Freedom 250 here at Moms for Liberty this year. And so we hope you'll join us on some events we'll talk about later, but also get your merch. Welcome back to the show. I'm Tina Deskovich, the CEO and co-founder of Moms for Liberty. We've got Ann Streit, the chapter chair of King County, Washington, who is obsessed with the garbage we're finding in books and curriculum. And she's been doing this for a number of years. And so I asked her to bring a couple things with her. And so just like one of the ones we just talked about before the show, which the 1920 to the 1950.
Yeah, so we can start today with literature.
Okay.
Which is pretty shocking. It represents who we are. You
remind
think about
me of a literature teacher right now. Like I feel like I'm
sorry.
I feel like I'm going to get schooled here. Okay.
Oh well. So I just brought some examples. So there's a deliberate dumbing down. There's a taking away of what's important. And I've got a bunch.
When we opened up the show, like the AP just yesterday, I think it's just this week, cutting scores again to dumb down. Like, how far dumb do we need to get?
Yeah.
But go ahead.
What are they going to look at 100 years from now when they see what we're doing?
Make sure your microphone is under your.
Okay.
There you
right
go.
there.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is an example I've got examples from classic literature, Moby Dick and Dickens, and but this is an example from just the Boxcar Children.
Hold on. You can't just say you've got examples from Moby Dick and Charles Dickens. Like, because I'm like, well, what do you mean? Is there something about the way Charles Dickens wrote that's concerning? Like, what do you mean you got examples?
But the concern is what they've changed it to.
What do you mean changed? Charles Dickens wrote Charles Dickens books. Like, are you saying there's new versions that Charles Dickens didn't write?
When you look at your child's syllabus and you see that they're reading David Copperfield, for example, doesn't mean they're actually reading the David Copperfield that Charles Dickens wrote. They may be reading an abridged version. They may be reading the comic book version they call graphic novels. They're very often reading simply excerpts or commentaries on them. So you can look at this literature. One of my friends has got the Arabian Nights. She's got her grandfather's copy from 1909. It's 9 volumes. Hers is down to 1. And the difference in the stories is just incredible. But I think one that a lot of your listeners are probably very familiar with is the Boxcar Children. Not classic literature, but we all grew up with it.
Oh, yeah. I love the Boxcar Children. Who didn't?
Yeah, exactly. And the way that the author wrote it is very different than what kids are reading now. And if you want, I can just
I don't want to gloss over what you're saying, because you're saying a Charles Dickens book is not the same book today. And I think this is important in a lot of areas, because it's not just that they're changing the books. No one knows that they're changing the books.
Yes.
And then we've got media and others. It's the sounds. It's go get a tin hat and a helicopter, but they're part of this problem. Like, they're part of the whole. I don't want to call it a conspiracy. I'm lacking a word here to use here, but maybe I'll share the story. That's the best way to explain something.
Okay.
The Diary of Anne Frank.
Yes.
I think is a prime example. I believe everyone should read The Diary of Anne Frank. However, you just said nowadays, there's graphic novel adaptations. And that's exactly what was found in one of the school districts just south of here. The chapter chair raised the alarm. She conferred with the Jewish community and leaders in the Jewish community. They all agreed. They want people reading The Diary of Anne Frank, not the adaptation cartoon version in high school. It's ridiculous.
Yes.
But what happened to us in the chapter and the chair down there a firestorm across the country that we don't want Anne Frank taught, which wasn't the case at all. So it's even the media is manipulating the narrative to reinforce the dumbing down and the breakdown of the true literature and the things seen. So I'm a little bit off on a tangent there. But when you said that, I was like, I know exactly how that's happening and where that's happening. It's awful.
Well, it is awful. And it brings me to an experience that I had talking about Anne Frank. I was on a curriculum adoption committee as you don't have to be a teacher. I did it as a community member after I had retired. But it was a surreal experience, and I don't want to go into everything. But finally, at a certain point, I thought, I've got to out myself. And I go, well, we've been talking about diversity. We spent weeks and weeks talking about diversity, talking about rubrics, talking about reading levels. And I finally raised my hand. When are we going to talk about what's worthy of reading? And I gave the example. I said, if Diary of a Wimpy Kid came out at the same reading level as Diary of Anne Frank, would they be considered equally worthy of reading? And they looked at me like I was speaking Lithuanian.
So we're not even considering what's worth reading.
Exactly. Yeah.
So you brought up the Boxcar Children. Let's go back to what so when were the Boxcar Children? When was it first written?
1924.
Really?
Yeah. It's a whole series. That's when a lot of the serials, the Hardy Boys and Bobbsey Twins and all that kind of stuff, kids started loving reading
in the 20s.
In the 20s.
Interesting. I grew up in the 80s, early 80s. And I remember the Boxcar Children, but I felt like they were written for me. Like I didn't feel like I was reading an olden time book, right?
Yeah.
So it's classic.
Yeah, classic. Yeah, even though it's not classic literature, it certainly reveals who they were at the time. So if you want, I can read you from an excerpt from the 1924.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Okay. So this is the second book, Surprise Island. About 7 o'clock one hot summer evening, a strange family moved into the little village of Middlesex. Nobody knew where they came from or who they were, but the neighbors soon made up their minds what they thought of the strangers, for the father was very drunk. He could hardly walk up the rickety steps of the old tumble-down house, and his 13-year-old son had to help him. Toward 8 o'clock, a pretty, capable girl of 12 came out of the house and bought a loaf of bread at the baker's. And that was all the villagers learned about the newcomers that night. That's a lovely description, and you can imagine kids getting a sense of what this family was experiencing and who they were. Now, they've changed it. That was 1924. 1950, which was still a long time ago, here's that same passage written in the 1950 Scott Forman edition. One warm summer night, 4 children stood in front of a bakery. No one knew them. No one knew where they'd come from. You look at the difference in
that's the whole thing?
That's it. Yeah, that whole paragraph.
So 3 sentences, I don't know, 10, 12 words, just took out a whole paragraph.
Yes, short sentences telling you what to think also, instead of letting the kids understand and picture and visualize and make their own decisions.
Why do you think that was done?
I think that they had been dumbing down for quite a while. The literacy wars, as we know, kids were not reading at the same level. We're not giving them the same kind of vocabulary and complex sentence structures. They're not prepared for this.
So in order for it to stay whatever grade level it is, age level of reading, they had to start dumbing it down so kids could comprehend and read it.
Yeah. And one of the things when you get involved in these committees and stuff, or just listen to what teachers are saying all the time, and I'm not denigrating teachers by any stretch of the imagination. A lot of this is the publishing companies, it's administration. But what they're saying is they want books that kids like. Of course, we all want books kids like.
That was the argument for genderqueer, by the way, in middle schools.
Yes,
they need to see themselves. They need to want to read it. And that's the argument for the graphic novels instead of actual literature.
Yeah, but kids value challenge. I recently, I won't go into that. Well, I will. So we were talking about how mostly we read nonfiction, but every now and then I'll push myself to read something. And I read. I had never read Milton's Paradise Lost. And so I read it with my dictionary, and still it's tough. It's a tough read. But at the end of it, I felt pleased with myself.
You accomplished something.
I've accomplished something. I was proud. And kids, we're taking that away from kids. We're saying, look at yourself, look at your life, ruminate on your feelings. Don't think about something higher. And we'll tell you what to think. And here's just some examples of some words that were in the 1924 edition that were missing. Words like delegated, devouring, embarrassment, procession, triumphantly, vigorously. You're not going to find those kind of words because the teachers think the kids don't want to be challenged, but they do. I remember when I would learn a new word when I was little, how you play around with it in your head and you use it and you practice saying it.
I do remember that, like saying it, trying to use it, and then realizing you used it wrong and being a little embarrassed, and then trying it in a different way.
We're taking that away from our kids. Yeah. Playing with language and visualizing, coming up with your own picture of what happened and understanding. And some of this is just heartbreaking. You look at the description in Moby Dick. Where you get a chance to meet the character for the first time and how complex he was and the thinking going on. And then the dumbed down version where they just, well, this is what I did and this is why I did it. There's no thought, no challenge.
And so I don't know if you want to make this leap yet, but they're trying to fix that the last several years and implementing all these new, I could say, pedagogies now, since you introduced the word, introducing these new pedagogies and systems and processes and tests and all these things to try to get kids to critical think when they literally robbed them from critical thinking by removing quality literature.
Yes.
And so in these new things, the DBQs and these different tools of what they're implementing, they're failing miserably. They are not working.
Well, they're not giving the kids a chance to view a storyline holistically and coherently, and they're taking little passages and they're telling them to analyze the grammar. Well, a lot of these kids don't know how to analyze grammar anyway, and they don't have the vocabulary.
You mean are they not diagramming sentences?
Yes.
I hated that so much in school. They're not diagramming sentences anymore. I don't think both of my boys would know how to diagram a sentence.
Neither one of my kids did, or my grandkids. So we're taking this away, and then we're expecting them to evaluate paragraphs and passages that they've never read before. And that's what we're doing with literature. A lot of times that we're saying that this is on the syllabus, we're going to be studying this book, but they don't actually read the book from beginning to end and see that compelling storyline, see the characters grow and persevere through difficulties and then come out victorious. And that's being taken from these kids.
I don't think parents really know that, because you're right. You see the list, you think they're reading the books, you see the syllabus. My now senior, when he was in middle school, it was during COVID, I pulled him and put him in a private Christian school, and they send you what you've got to go buy for the class. And it was actual books. It was for English class was 3 novels that you had to go purchase the actual novel. And I remember thinking like, oh, I haven't done this in a long time, purchased a novel for my child for school, right? At home, we have a collection, but I don't think we even realize what is happening or what has happened with literature.
Yeah. And even when you're purchasing the novel, it may not have been the Melville version or the Copperfield version.
Correct.
It's like classic illustrated, and you think, well, it's classic and illustrated. That just means they're adding pictures to it.
Yeah.
That's not the same thing.
Yeah,
the vocabulary.
I was so happy that he was reading a whole book. I didn't even think about. It never occurred to me that it wasn't the same original book. I'll be honest, until you just said that today. I just assumed the Charles Dickens book was a Charles Dickens book today. The same. That is so depressing.
Well, it is. They're taking so much away from our children. They're stealing their ability to dream and to achieve and to accomplish something that's difficult and challenging. But that's not the way kids are. Kids will ride that bike until they're able to do it. They will fall, they'll roller skate till they fall, and they have a challenge. They rise to that challenge, and we're taking that away from them. And it's very sad.
And we know that we have the lowest reading score since the 80s, lowest math scores ever. We know education is in crisis. I think I say that in the opening of the show of every episode. Like, we're in an education crisis in America.
Yeah.
And so we've got to start doing something different. So maybe the challenge today is for parents to go find classics and can you even buy the originals of some of these and introduce them to your children?
Well, I think you have to go to probably historical bookstores and stuff now. I've got a friend that goes to bookstores, and she looks for history books before the date of 1920, when they really started changing these things. But talk about reading levels. This is I hadn't planned to do this. I was just using the whole things. But this is the textbook that kids started
Your
with.
camera's right there. Make sure you hold it up there so that I can see it.
This is the New England Primer. This is the 1977 version of it. This was the first grade textbook, How Kids Learn to Read. And this is the 1977 version. And so you think, well, these are one-room schoolhouses. Mothers are teaching their kids.
In 77.
Did I say 1970? 1777.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry. I do that all the time.
I was like, I was born in 74. I wasn't in a one-room schoolhouse.
No, this was the first textbook, 1690, 1777.
Wow.
And at that time, Jefferson commissioned a study of literacy in America. The number of Americans that were literate with one-room schoolhouses and moms teaching them was 99.6%. And the vocabulary, you go back and you read the Federalist Papers and you read the speeches and the sermons, the vocabulary was so much stronger back then. And now our kids are 30, 40, 50% across the state in Washington. Some of our districts are much lower than that.
And what can we do? And I don't know that we're prepared to talk about this or answer this, but you're depressing me.
I'm sorry.
And I just keep thinking about social media and my own son texting me and not complete sentences and no punctuation, and how kids find it almost, offensive if you text them and like use correct capitalization and punctuation. They think you're mad, or we're really headed down it's kind of sad where we're headed. So what if you could just pick one or two things that maybe we could do?
Yeah. I never want to be depressed. I'm an optimistic, glass half full kind of person. But I think that your idea of going out and buying the books for the kids, having these discussions, too many times our kids are going to soccer practice and ballet, and we stop at at McDonald's to pick up food. We're not having dinners with our kids anymore. But to do it as a family, to pick a really good book and read it together and have discussions about it. I mean, I think that could make a huge difference.
I'm picturing my husband, who's recently retired, and my son, who's now 18. We still have dinner together just about every night when I'm in town.
Good for you.
And I know I'm a foodie. Like food is my love language. Either give me good food or I want to cook good food for people. And so it's, I travel a lot, and it's important to me that we're all sitting there. But I'm like, as you're saying this, I'm like, I have no little kids anymore, but could we read a book together? How would my 18-year-old and my husband respond? I might have to, I'm going to try it. I think I'm going to try it.
Yeah. Well, have him pick something. I mean, there's so many wonderful books out there. And I think once they start getting into it and enjoy that challenge and enjoy that connection with you guys to have real discussions. There was a really popular show. It's just ended, but it was Blue Bloods. And it was a typical cop show. But one of the things they featured every single show was this family dinner.
Really?
Where they every Sunday they would have a family dinner, and they would talk about big things. Not did you get your homework done? How did your baseball game go? They would talk about big ideas of justice and mercy and the law. And people loved that show. And I think that's why, because other than that, it was a typical cop show. But we're hungry for that. We're hungry for that connection.
So let's talk a little bit about not so much the physical things that you're finding, the comparison, the lack of vocabulary, but a little bit more about the pedagogy. And you and I chatted earlier about culturally responsive teaching and social emotional learning. And we've had some other episodes about SEL and some different things, but not really culturally responsive teaching, because that term sounds great, just like social emotional learning. It sounds great.
Yes.
Like, why would you not want to be sensitive to the child's culture? And wouldn't they learn better if you understood their culture a little bit and was a little more sensitive? So is that what is culturally responsive teaching? And if not, what is it?
It takes it much farther than that. And I agree with you. Of course, we want to be culturally responsive. And I remember that training, we would learn early in my career, this particular culture, kids don't look parents in the eye. And so you can't sit there saying, look at me when I'm talking to you. So to understand which kids don't look you in the eye, which cultures don't volunteer to raise their hands, you do need to know that. And we need to be sensitive to kids. But culturally responsive teaching, I describe it as the kinder cousin of CRT and cultural pedagogy, where it's taking what sounds good, being sensitive. But what they can do is they can take something that's very innocent sounding and they can turn it into a DEI lesson, and parents would never know. James Lindsay uses an example, and I use it all the time. So thank you, James. I'm borrowing it from him. But it's a math problem. It's a story problem. I think it's from 2nd grade, and it's Johnny and his family are going to driving to the amusement park. It's 50 miles away. They've driven 20 miles. How many miles do they have left? No parent would ever question that. That's a perfectly acceptable example of a math problem. But under culturally responsive teaching, well, boys and girls, we can't say boys and girls, children, let's unpack that. Okay.
You can say boys and girls on this show.
Yes,
I
know, but not in the classroom. So kids, let's unpack that. So Johnny and his family, who do you think's in Johnny's family? And then you can get into a conversation about different kinds of families. And then, well, they're going to an amusement park. How many of you have been to an amusement park? Why don't some people go? Well, they're expensive, aren't they? What are some reasons people can't afford them? And then you can get into a whole lesson on oppression and poverty. And then don't even get me started on the fact that they're driving to an amusement park when they should be taking a bus. So that's an example of culturally responsive teaching, wanting all the children to feel comfortable with a problem. But you think about it, in all the time, we could have spent 10 minutes pulling that information out of the kids. In that 10 minutes, I never answered the question. And think how
they never learned how to do math.
Yeah, never, in that same amount of time, they could have done 10 problems and actually learned math. So it's something that sounds good, but isn't. And we see that the left they're masterful at using language, and we need to be taking that back.
Okay.
But yeah, they take what sounds good and turns it into something that parents don't know about.
So we've got problems in books. We've got problems in textbooks. We've got problems in the teacher's manuals. We've got problems in the pedagogy, just in the way it's being taught. And you're really seeing the breakdown of education through all of that.
Yes.
It's remarkable.
Exactly.
All right, we're going to take another break for a minute here for a moment to hear about our newest event for celebrating Freedom 250, America's 250th birthday. And this one now is on the USS Midway on June 6th, which is D-Day. And we just talked that you're going to be down there the day before for a training we're going to do. But we're going to just take 1 minute and we'll come back to our conversation with Ann.
Hi, Suzanne Grishman, Executive Director at Mercury One and American Journey Experience, and I'm here with my good friend,
Tina Deskovich, Moms for Liberty.
We are doing the Sea to Shining Sea Galas, and this is our Sea to Shining Sea Gala space that we'll be at on D-Day, June 6th.
We invite you to join us for a once-in-a-lifetime experience here on the USS Midway.
You will never have a D-Day experience in celebration of the 250th year of America like you're going to have here in San Diego on June the 6th.
We're going to honor all of America's heroes, and we're going to shoot fireworks off the bow of the USS Midway at the end of the night.
So come join us. You don't want to miss out. God bless you, and God bless America.
Welcome back to the Fire of Liberty show. I'm Tina Deskovich. This is Ann Streit from King County, which is Seattle, Washington. We've been having a great discussion about what's happening with literature in America and the textbooks and books, just good classics, and how the dumbing down of America is happening. But now I want to jump a little bit into the video we just showed was about our event on the USS Midway. We're partnering with the American Journey Experience.
Yes.
And part of what's happening in America with the dumbing down is we're losing our history. We're losing, they're just changing it. They're taking down monuments and statues and destroying artifacts. And so we're thrilled to be partnering with American Journey Experience. And you were just telling me before the show that you've actually been to their vault in Texas.
I have. I did I think it's 2.5 day training with David Barton.
Did you
Tim
really?
Barton. And you learn for a couple hours and they take you into the vault and you're holding incredible artifacts. You were talking about the things that you held.
George Washington's compass. I have a picture of me, and it's like it got an indent where his finger just for all the years wore it down, like almost like into a pencil. It's just, it's remarkable.
It's moving, and it's a wonderful thing that they've done to collect all these things, because history is being lost. It's being erased. It's being falsified. And that's what I was finding in my textbook reviews. It was pretty shocking, in the number of things that kids aren't learning. And I don't know if you want me to give any examples of some of the things that I was finding.
Yeah, I think people, we kind of say that sometimes as a generalized statement. If you've got proof or an example, pull it out. Let's share one of them. I'd love to hear it.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's certainly a lot of factual errors. Those didn't bother me as much. Those are fairly easily correctable. But it's the bias and the omission of facts and the way they can turn a story. I was doing a review of World War II. And you think about some of the things that you might want to talk about in World War II. You'd be talking about maybe the genocide of 10 million Jews, Gypsies, disabled. That would be pretty important to talk about. So at the end of this chapter, I thought, I don't feel like kids have got a very good handle on what happened. So I started doing a count. Well, how many times did they mention what happened to the Jews and some of these other things? So unofficial. So I would just look at the text. I'd look at the study questions and the sidebars, and then count the number of times it was mentioned. So the Holocaust was mentioned 8 times. Usually, or very often, just a single word saying the Holocaust, or a very brief mention, 8 times of the Holocaust. So what were they spending time on? I thought, okay, well, maybe that could be kind of brutal to introduce to 6th grade kids. So what are they talking about? Maybe they're talking about historic events and heroic things that happened. So I looked at when did they talk about, what did Americans do? What did the resistance do? You know, all the people.
Was D-Day mentioned?
D-Day was not mentioned. Midway was not mentioned. Iwo Jima, Doolittle's raid. There was 0 stories about American heroism or those that tried to protect the Jews. So you think, okay, what are they talking about? Then a textbook on American history or World War II. Well, there were 11 mentions of the internment of the Japanese. We all recognize
11 mentions.
11,
but no D-Day.
No D-Day at all.
No Normandy Beach. Nothing of
exactly. Very little on what happened. So I thought, well, that's strange. And of course, the one thing that they did omit was who actually did the order, that it was a Democrat that actually placed that order. So they skimmed over that. You know what the most referred to item in this thing was? The atom bomb. 25.
What?
25 mentions of us dropping the atom bomb.
Which it deserves. It deserves mentions. It deserves discussion and debate and use and not use. And that's a huge thing that happened in a big part of history. But what was also happening in Europe and what America did there at the, kind of simultaneously to what was going on should have equal.
And that's what we're looking for is equality, making sure that they're covering everything. And I just thought at the end of this, if a child, we can roll our eyes and say, oh, that's awful, and give an exasperated sigh. But kids, that's their introduction to World War II.
We ended the war. Let's be very clear with World War II. Yes, war is awful. Atom bomb was horrific. D-Day was a nightmare. But the war had no end in sight until America got involved. And that, I don't know, I have no idea which textbooks you reviewed or what ultimately was said. But their takeaway at the end was America got involved and it was ended. And World War II ended.
Yes, exactly. But any child reading that would have to wonder who were the bad guys and who were the good guys.
Yeah, it's not okay.
No, it is.
So our friends at American Journey Experience are
Yes.
preserving history, and we're grateful. And we're partnering with Glenn Beck on those events. And he's
Yes.
working, I don't know if you've been following his work with George AI,
Yes.
which is only going to pull information from the historical documents that Mercury One has or Glenn has in their possession, which they have the third largest historical artifact collection in the country, behind like the Smithsonian. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's really quite remarkable that there are humans right now in America that are very concerned about preserving history and the American values and ideas and the American dream. And I'm so grateful for them.
Yeah. Well, you take away a person's history and they've got nothing left to stand on. Why do you stand for anything?
Mhm.
What do you stand for if you don't have a history, if you're not proud of who you were, if you can't point to the wonderful things that we did during World War II to save?
But
Europe?
it's deeper than that. We have an episode a couple months ago with Rachel Wilson Snyder out of Pennsylvania. She is a licensed mental health counselor and has been in that area. And the whole episode was about if you pull somebody's history out, even on an individual level, let alone an American level, you've destabilized them as a human. Like their cognitive development and growth they have no foundation, no base. And so it's what they're doing to us as a country.
Yeah.
And I'm just grateful for you and the work that the review of textbooks and books and exposing that is important work. And I really think that maybe we want to figure out how to approach that within our organization.
Well, it's fun to do, and it's something anybody can do. I don't have a degree in history, but there are so many wonderful books out there, and I can point people in the right directions. But we've got to restore this, and going back to the mental health of children. And we're all concerned about the mental health of children. But what do we do? In Washington, we just passed a great big bill, and both sides voted for it, saying that we're going to get the kids more counseling. But at the same time, we're taking their history away from them. We're taking away their ability to dream.
You're putting a Band-Aid on something you've destabilized, basically. It's not the solution.
Exactly. Yeah, we're still poking holes in that life raft and then thinking somebody going around patching it is going to work. You got to stop the person from poking holes in it. And that's why we need to pay attention to what our kids are learning.
It's just, I need to like wrap this up on a joyful note. We're going to have to, because I'm feeling, we're both optimists.
Yes,
and yet here we are. It's so depressing.
Yes.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about your chapter and what it's like.
Okay.
Well, actually, before we do that, let's talk about living in Washington.
Okay.
And what that's like. Is it hard? You're in a very blue state. You're in Seattle area, which is a very blue county, and you're doing work to save America there. What is that like for you?
Well, it's a challenge. And I always say it's job security. I don't have to worry about fixing things, my volunteer job. But
no one's going to fire you from your volunteer job, by the way.
Well, it is a good thing that I'm an optimist, and I always think that something can be done. I'm an action-oriented person. And I said from day one, we're not going to go have meetings where we sit and people come and clap. Oops, sorry. And say, oh, that was wonderful, and walk away and not do anything. Everything we do is action.
And this is why, ladies and gentlemen, she belongs in Moms for Liberty, because that's who we are. Like the whole sit around and drink tea and clap and smile and wave pretty is not what we do around here.
Yeah. So lots and lots of activities, but Washington in general is very difficult. King County is the worst of it. That's where Seattle is. It's very, very blue. And it used to be, if you looked at a map, most of Washington would be red, but because the population is so heavy in King County, we affected everything. But it's changing. Each one of we've got chapters in Spokane, which used to be red. It's blue, but we have a wonderful chapter leader there. Neighboring Snohomish County, same thing. Pierce County with Sarah Garrett, who's worked so hard. So we've got people standing up, trying to do the right thing, which is exciting. And we have to look for the small victories. We have
and what kind of, do you have, first of all, do you have victories in the state of Washington?
You look carefully. We're not winning school board races, very few. Occasionally, and I applaud the people we've got some wonderful people. We won a couple in King County this last time. So that was very exciting.
Well, congratulations on that, but not Seattle Public Schools, right? Because they are a nightmare.
Yes, Seattle schools are a nightmare.
Do you remember, were you there when I spoke at the Republican convention out
Yes.
there? And so I think I remember this because I read the article that morning and then I
Yeah.
changed everything I was going to say because there was an article about Seattle Public Schools that was
Yeah.
posted either that morning or the day before. And they had just invested all this money to put together a research committee to figure out why so many kids were leaving Seattle Public Schools. And I was like, I have some chapter chairs that can probably tell them exactly why so many people are leaving Seattle.
Volunteer and do it for free.
And you won't have to pay them a dime.
But,
They'll be glad to give you the
yeah.
list. So,
But there are small victories. So we were talking about how Washington still is putting boys in girls sports. They have no protection. But we've got some wonderful young women that are standing up and they're going around and they're speaking out.
so
And they are
proud
so
of them.
poised and articulate. And these are 15, 16-year-old girls. So this is so inspiring that
When
we're
you see that, make
raising
sure you share
leaders.
that with us, with Scarlett, because that's what
Okay.
happened in New Richmond, Wisconsin. Once Scarlett gets a hold of it, she makes sure it gets the attention it needs across the country. And the Department of
Okay.
Education opened an investigation in the one in Wisconsin. And so
Yeah.
the same thing could potentially happen out there.
Well, that would be exciting. Yeah. So I will do that. We've got a group called Washington State School Directors Association, WASDA. In Washington, school directors are called, or school board members are called directors, and
Okay.
they are required by law to be part of WASDA. And the very first thing they do,
Is it part of the National School Board Association? Like in Florida, we have the Florida School Board Association.
we've got a state school board association, but it's a state law that they're required to be part of WASDA.
Which is something separate than your state school board association?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
what's the purpose of WASDA?
Well, this is the school directors themselves get together and they make policy. They advise they advise legislation. They propose. It's not a political agency, but they put out the policies. They're the
Okay.
ones to do the secretive gender stuff. So and it's very left, as you can imagine. And we've got but Sarah Garriott in Pierce County and another woman were very instrumental in starting a small group of what they call a conservative caucus
Within WASDA.
within WASDA. And they have done some amazing things.
Really?
One of the things that they did was they overthrew the weighted vote. It used to be Seattle and like Washington and Tacoma.
The bigger cities got more.
would have all the votes. And so the smaller, more conservative districts wouldn't even bother to come. So we did some behind the scenes help, and they were able to overturn that. So now the little district that has 800 kids in it has got the same vote as
it
these bigger
should
districts.
be.
That's huge. It's considered one of the biggest conservative victories we've had.
Congratulations.
In Washington.
That's
in
really
40
remarkable.
years.
Oh, in 40
In
years?
40 years. We haven't had a Republican governor for, I think, at least 40 years. So that was remarkable.
Congratulations. Like,
And
like
thank
just,
you.
yeah, stop.
Yeah.
Enjoy it for a second.
will.
Take the, I mean, you have
Yeah.
to find the wins where you can find them.
Yeah.
And that's actually it's a really huge win. And
Yeah.
if you weren't already involved in being active, you wouldn't even know that was something that needed to be done. And so just thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you for being present and working on it.
Well, thank you. We just have a wonderful group, and I give all the credit to Sarah, who helped get this caucus started, and Randy, who is leading the caucus in reaching out to national organizations like Leadership Institute for training. It's absolutely wonderful. And he and I just talked a couple of days ago about how they have now been able to take over some of the committees. So it's not just being a member that's important. You've got to get on these committees if you want to change things. And they have just taken over one of the major committees that is going to impact the policies that the entire state has. So it's these wins that aren't big and in the news.
It takes
and-
time. Our
Yes.
opponents are in this for the long game, and they've been doing
Yeah.
it for decades, and they have long-term vision. And we seem to be so like short-minded and
Yeah.
immediate wins. But Moms for Liberty's in it for the long game, 100%. Like we know where we're going, and it's going to take time, but we're going to get there.
Yeah. And that's why I'm so proud to be part of this organization. You guys have done such a great job.
You
And,
guys, you're part of the organization. We have done such a great.
We've done so well. Yeah. So, and to have sisters and brothers in this fight, We've got one of our board members is a gentleman. He's one of those people that always, when I say, well, we've got to do this, and he's the first one to raise his hand and say, what
so
can I
good.
do to help? So we're working hard. We're supporting each other. And that's important because it is dark there. But we're going to win this game. We've read the book. We know how it ends.
Yes, we have. And so thank you for holding up the light. You said you're coming to the event we just talked about the one on the USS Midway. It's a C2C event. The first event is actually May 2nd on Ellis Island. We've rented out the whole island. Yes. And you said you're coming to that.
I am coming to it. I'm very
excited. So excited. Are you coming alone, or
I'm coming with a friend.
With a friend.
Yeah. She's a big Glenn Beck fan, and she was the one that said, let's do it. I go, okay.
I love it. It's going to be fantastic. And so if you guys want to go to momsforliberty.org/freedom250, there's still, I don't know, a handful of tickets left, a few sponsorships left. Go. Get your ticket, join us. It's going to be an amazing night. Fireworks over the Statue of Liberty. I mean, I'm so excited about that. Real America's Voice has decided, I don't know if you've heard yet, they're going to live stream for us. And we're launching watch parties. We've had almost 100 people sign up to host a watch party for the evening. So, and if they're going to have, if they feel like it's going to be an amazing watch party, Real America's Voice is willing to send out a correspondent to their watch party, and they'll broadcast into us from almost like New Year's Eve from their watch party to show that others are watching across the country at the same time as we celebrate America. So,
I love that. Share it with everybody. And I'm thinking, chapter meeting, we'll get together and have people watch
exactly.
It
I mean, it costs a lot to fly to New York, and the hotel and the tickets are expensive. And so not everybody can do it. And so we were trying to think of a way that everybody can celebrate America together that night. There'll be a lot of stuff going around on July 4th, but this will be like the biggest event starting in May leading up to it. So we're excited about that. All right. Here's your last question. We are winding down the hour, and it's the same last question. If you've watched any of the other episodes, what does it mean to be a joyful warrior?
Well, we know that this is a spiritual battle. We talk about that all the time, how it's, we're fighting not against flesh and blood, but principalities, and that can get very dark. But because I'm a history buff and a literature buff, I can look to what has been done before. And I look at, you can just go back just to World War II and see these incredible heroes and what they did. Dietrich Bonhoeffer, Corrie ten Boom, and Irina Sendler, and all these wonderful heroes. And they didn't do it with guns. They didn't do it with anger. They did it with love and compassion. And that's the answer for us.
That is our path forward at Moms for Liberty. That's perfect. And Corrie ten Boom, Dietrich. Who was the third person?
Irina Sendler. She saved 20. She went into the ghetto. She was sent in as a nurse or something, and she spirited 2,500 children out in her bag, and put them in homes. She saved 2,500 children.
Do you know what that must look like today as far as generations that have been saved? The numbers. It's remarkable. So let's be like those people. Let's continue to be joyful warriors. Thank you, Ann, for joining us today on the Fire of Liberty show. I'm Tina Deskovich, the CEO and co-founder of Moms for Liberty. Today's guest was Ann Streit from King County. That's Seattle, Washington, the chapter chair. She is obsessed with what's going on with curriculum and with the books in America. Classical literature has been destroyed, and we've been dumbing down America. And it's been a great conversation with you, Ann. Please join us every week at 10 a.m. on all our socials live for the Fire of Liberty show. You can follow, download, go to Apple and Spotify, and you can catch all the other episodes, which I think we're on almost episode 50 or something. Oh, we should celebrate, Amy, when we get to 50. I don't know what number this is, but 50 will be a milestone. We're at 45. 5 more episodes. Oh, well, maybe we'll have like a 50th party or something. That'll be fun.
Yeah.
All right. That's it for now. We'll see you next week at 10 a.m.